President Trump speaking at the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. He covered a lot of topics, including our relationship with NATO and how he plans to move forward with Greenland. Joining us is Colin Reed, who's a principal with Washington, D.C. based South and Hill Column. As always, welcome back to Capitol Review.
Great to be here, Mark.
We're always glad to have you. Obviously, President Trump said that the U.S. has been taken advantage of over the years by Europe, adding that it's been a lopsided relationship with NATO allies. Does he have a point?
Well, all eyes were overseas this week, Mark. And by the way, that's a point that President Trump's been talking about as long as he's been a candidate in the national stage, going all the way back to 2015. And it's one, frankly, that you saw later in the week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky really tear into some of those European countries for being unprepared and unable to defend their countries. He's someone, of course, who should know as he's about to enter year 4 of his war with Russia. So, look, it's true that for many years, these European countries have taken for granted the fact that the United States will have their back on matters of national security. President Trump is raising that issue, and it may just lead to some fundamental reshaping of how Europe approaches its priorities.
President Trump said that he would not use force to take Greenland. Was that the right move? Was that the right tone? Earlier this month, he said that it was on the table.
Well, the United States' interest in Greenland didn't used to be such a partisan idea. In fact, Harry Truman, way back in the 1940s, was the first president to really take a long, hard look at our interest there. And we do have interest there, from national security to mineral rights. And ultimately, of course, the United States was never going to send military troops to Greenland. There was never going to be an invasion of it. And you saw the markets react this week when that issue was on the table. And you saw President Trump walk that back. And now we remain to see where this deal goes. And the devil's always in the details as to what happens. But ultimately, it seems like the week ended in a more positive spot than where it started.
Colin, is there a win-win scenario regarding Greenland? We already have a strong presence there.
Yeah, look, I think it's an agreement where we can get what we need out of it, and as President Trump pointed out, feel like we have ownership or not ownership, but skin in the game in terms of the defense we provide. But make no mistake, China, Russia, they're watching this really closely as well. We've already seen 2026. Hard to believe, Mark. We're still in its first month. We've already seen President Trump take a big step toward reasserting American dominance in our hemisphere with what he did in Venezuela by removing Nicolas Maduro from power. And I think you see this as an extension of that and ensuring that the American interests are represented in the Western Hemisphere, and we're keeping our adversaries like China and Russia on their heels.
The president said that he reached a framework of a future deal. Do you think that President Trump's foreign policies really get in the way of his America First agenda, because he says that protecting American interest is top priority?
This president, like any president, can walk and chew gum at the same time. And it's not uncommon for presidents of both parties in their second terms to really flex their muscles on the international stage, whether it was Presidents Clinton, Obama, Bush, you name it, because they're presidents, they're one of one. They're the commander in chief. They're unchallenged on that global stage, and they can do things in a way that no one can potentially challenge them. But look, the president also knows that, and his party knows that this midterm election that's coming up, it's going to come down to economic issues. By and large, that's where voters' concerns are. That's where their priorities are, and that's where he ran on, and that's what he won on. And there's a lot to do, but this idea that it's one or the other, it's not true. President Trump's perfectly capable of keeping his eye on both balls at the same time.
Colin, if you were advising the president, would you tell him that he's going in the right direction, or would you make some adjustments?
Well, look, I think Europe needed a wake-up call, and I think the comments from Prime Minister Mark Carney this week is seeming to suggest that Canada was going to cozy up to China because they don't like the fact that President Trump is reshaping how things are done. That was totally out of line. Same with Gavin Newsom, a California governor, going over to Davos and essentially encouraging foreign countries to oppose the president of the United States on foreign soil. So at some point, the status quo is not working. President Trump comes in there, he shakes things up. Sometimes he does things in a way that ruffles some feathers, but ultimately it can hopefully come out for a better long-term outcome.
Colin Reed, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thanks, Mark.